In very measured tones, the president is firing howitzers at the media and the Washington establishment. I'll characterize this later. Let's just jip it now to get in here while we can.
Doing what I pledged to do. That's all I'm doing. I put it out before the American people. Got 306 electoral college votes. I wasn't supposed to get 222. They said there's no way to get 222. 230 is impossible. 270, which you need, that was laughable. We got 306 because people came out and voted like they've never seen before. So that's the way it goes. I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan. In other words, the media is trying to attack our administration because they know we are following through on pledges that we made, and they're not happy about it for whatever reason.
He's really attacked them here before.
But a lot of people are happy about it. In fact,
really?
I'll be in Melbourne, Florida at 5 o'clock on Saturday.
Really launched it.
And I just heard that the crowds are massive that want to be there. I turn on the TV, open the newspapers, and I see stories of chaos. Chaos. Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine, despite the fact that I can't get my cabinet approved. And they're outstanding people, like Senator Dan Coates, who's there, one of the most respected men in the Senate. He can't get approved. How do you not approve him? He's been a colleague, highly respected, brilliant guy, great guy. Everybody knows it. We're waiting for approval. So we have a wonderful group of people that's working very hard, that's being very much misrepresented about, and we can't let that happen. So if the Democrats who have, all you have to do is look at where they are right now. The only thing they can do is delay, because they've screwed things up royally, believe me. Let me list to you some of the things that we've done in just a short period of time. I just got here. I got here with no cabinet. Again, each of these actions is a promise I made to the American people. So we'll go over just some of them, and we have a lot happening next week and in the weeks coming. We've withdrawn from the job-killing disaster known as Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're going to make trade deals, but we're going to have one-on-one deals, bilateral. We're going to have one-on-one deals. We've directed the elimination of regulations that undermine manufacturing and called for expedited approval of the permits needed for America and American infrastructure. And that means plant, equipment, roads, bridges, factories. People take 10, 15, 20 years to get disapproved for a factory. They go in for a permit. It's many, many years. And then at the end of the process, they spend tens of millions of dollars on nonsense. And at the end of the process, they get rejected. Now, they may be rejected with me, but it's going to be a quick rejection. Not going to take years. But mostly, it's going to be an acceptance. We want plants built, and we want factories built, and we want the jobs. We don't want the jobs going to other countries. We've imposed a hiring freeze on non-essential federal workers. We've imposed a temporary moratorium on new federal regulations. We've issued a game-changing new rule that says for each one new regulation, 2 old regulations must be eliminated. Makes sense. Nobody's ever seen regulations like we have. You go to other countries and you look at industries they have and you say, let me see your regulations. And they're a fraction, just a tiny fraction of what we have. And I want regulations because I want safety, I want all environmental situations to be taken properly care of. It's very important to me. But you don't need 4 or 5 or 6 regulations to take care of the same thing. We've stood up for the men and women of law enforcement, directing federal agencies to ensure they are protected from crimes of violence. We've directed the creation of a task force for reducing violent crime in America, including the horrendous situation Take a look at Chicago and others. Taking place right now in our inner cities. Horrible. We've ordered the Department of Homeland Security and Justice to coordinate on a plan to destroy criminal cartels coming into the United States with drugs. We're becoming a drug-infested nation. Drugs are becoming cheaper than candy bars. And we're not going to let it happen any longer. We've undertaken the most substantial border security measures in a generation to keep our nation and our tax dollars safe, and are now in the process of beginning to build a promised wall on the southern border. Met with General, now Secretary Kelly, yesterday, and we're starting that process. And the wall is going to be a great wall, and it's going to be a wall negotiated by me. The price is going to come down just like it has on everything else I've negotiated for the government.
Beautiful door.
And we're going to have a wall that works. We're not going to have a wall like they have now, which is either non-existent or a joke. We've ordered a crackdown on sanctuary cities that refuse to comply with federal law and that harbor criminal aliens. And we've ordered an end to the policy of catch and release on the border. No more release. No matter who you are, release. We've begun a nationwide effort to remove criminal aliens, gang members, drug dealers, and others who pose a threat to public safety. We are saving American lives every single day. Court system has not made it easy for us. And are even creating a new office in Homeland Security dedicated to the forgotten American victims of illegal immigrant violence, of which there are many. We've taken decisive action to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. Though parts of our necessary and constitutional actions were blocked by a judge's, in my opinion, incorrect and unsafe ruling, our administration is working night and day to keep you safe, including reporters safe, and is vigorously defending this lawful order. I will not back down from defending our country. I got elected on defense of our country. And I keep my campaign promises. And our citizens will be very happy when they see the result. They already are. I can tell you that. Extreme vetting will be put in place, and it already is in place in many places. In fact, we had to go quicker than we thought because of the bad decision we received from a circuit that has been overturned at a record number. I've heard 80%. I find that hard to believe. That's just a number I heard, that they're overturned 80% of the time. I think that circuit is in chaos, and that circuit is, frankly, in turmoil. But we are appealing that, and we are going further. We're issuing a new executive action next week that will comprehensively protect our country. So we'll be going along the one path and hopefully winning that. At the same time, we will be issuing a new and very comprehensive order to protect our people. And that'll be done sometime next week, toward the beginning or middle at the latest part. We've also taken steps to begin construction of the Keystone Pipeline and Dakota Access Pipelines, thousands and thousands of jobs, and put new Buy American measures in place to require American steel for American pipelines. In other words, they build a pipeline in this country, and we use the powers of government to make that pipeline happen. We want them to use American steel. And they're willing to do that. But nobody ever asked before I came along. Even this order was drawn, and they didn't say that. And I'm reading the order. I'm saying, why aren't we using American steel? And they said, that's a good idea. We put it in.
Jeez.
To drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C.
Here we go.
I've started by imposing a 5-year lobbying ban on White House officials and a lifetime ban on lobbying for a foreign government. We've begun preparing to repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare is a disaster, folks. It's a disaster. You can say, oh, Obamacare. I mean, they fill up our rallies with people that you wonder how they get there, but they're not the Republican people that our representatives are representing. So we've begun preparing to repeal and replace Obamacare and are deep in the midst of negotiations on a very historic tax reform to bring our jobs back. We're going to bring our jobs back to this country, big league. It's already happening, but big league. I've also worked to install a cabinet over the delays and obstruction of Senate Democrats. You've seen what they've done over the last long number of years. That will be one of the great cabinets ever assembled in American history. You look at Rex Tillerson, is out there negotiating right now. General Mattis, I mentioned before, General Kelly. We have great people. Mick is with us now. We have great people. Among their responsibilities will be ending the bleeding of jobs from our country and negotiating fair trade deals for our citizens. Now look, fair trade, not free, fair. If a country is taking advantage of us, we're not going to let that happen anymore. Now every country takes advantage of us, almost. I may be able to find a couple that don't. But for the most part, that would be a very tough job for me to do. Jobs have already started to surge. Since my election, Ford announced it will abandon its plans to build a new factory in Mexico and will instead invest $700 million in Michigan, creating many, many jobs. Fiat Chrysler announced it will invest $1 billion in Ohio and Michigan, creating 2,000 new American jobs. They were with me a week ago. You know, you were here. General Motors likewise committed to invest billions of dollars in its American manufacturing operation, keeping many jobs here that were going to leave. And if I didn't get elected, believe me, they would have left. And these jobs and these things that I'm announcing would never have come here. Intel just announced that it will move ahead with a new plant in Arizona that probably was never going to move ahead with. And that will result in at least 10,000 American jobs. Walmart announced it will create 10,000 jobs in the United States just this year because of our various plans and initiatives. And there'll be many, many more. These are a few that we're naming. Other countries have been taking advantage of us for decades, folks. And we're not going to let that happen anymore. Not going to let it happen. And one more thing. I have kept my promise to the American people by nominating a justice of the United States Supreme Court, Judge Neil Gorsuch, who is from my list of 20 and who will be a true defender of our laws and our Constitution. Highly respected. Should get the votes from the Democrats. You may not see that, but he'll get there one way or the other. But he should get there the old-fashioned way. And he should get those votes. This last month has represented an unprecedented degree of action on behalf of the great citizens of our country. Again, I say it, there has never been a presidency that's done so much in such a short period of time. And we haven't even started the big work yet. That starts early next week. Some very big things are going to be announced next week. So we're just getting started. We will be giving a speech, as I said, in Melbourne, Florida at 5 p.m. I hope to see you there. And with that, I just say, God bless America, and let's take some questions. Mara, go ahead. You were cut off pretty violently at our last news conference. Mike Flynn is a fine person, and I asked for his resignation. He respectfully gave it. He is a man who there was a certain amount of information given to Vice President Pence, who's with us today, and I was not happy with the way that information was given. He didn't have to do that because what he did wasn't wrong. What he did in terms of the information he saw, what was wrong was the way that other people, including yourselves in this room, were given that information. Because that was classified information. It was given illegally. That's the real problem. And, you can talk all you want about Russia, which was all a, fake news fabricated deal to try and make up for the loss of the Democrats, and the press plays right into it.
Right.
In fact, I saw a couple of the people that were supposedly involved with all of this. They know nothing about it. They weren't in Russia. They never made a phone call to Russia. They never received a phone call. It's all fake news. It's all fake news. The nice thing is I see it starting to turn, where people are now looking at the illegal. All right, I think it's very important. The illegal giving out classified information. It was, and let me just tell you, it was given out like so much. I'll give you an example. I called, as you know, Mexico. It was a very, very confidential, classified call.
Right. Listen,
but I
this
called
is
Mexico.
Very important
and in
here,
calling
folks.
Mexico, I figured, oh, well, I spoke to the president of Mexico, had a good call. All of a sudden, it's out for the world to see. It's supposed to be secret.
Well, they lied about
it. It's supposed to be either confidential or classified in that case. Same thing with Australia.
They lied about it.
All of a sudden, people are finding out exactly what took place. The same thing happened with respect to General Flynn. Everybody saw this. And I'm saying, the first thing I thought of when I heard about it is, how does the press get this information that's classified? How do they do it? You know why? Because it's an illegal process, and the press should be ashamed of themselves. But more importantly, the people that gave out the information to the press should be ashamed of themselves. Really ashamed. Yes, go ahead. Because when I looked at the information, I said, I don't think he did anything wrong. If anything, he did something right. He was coming into office. He looked at the information. He said, that's fine. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be. And he didn't just call Russia. He called and spoke to both ways.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to take a bump out here for our commercial break, and respecting that for our local affiliates as well. But we'll come back and rejoin this. And I can't wait to characterize this for you, what you might have missed in the first 5 or 6 minutes of it. Sit tight. We're coming right back. While we were away, President Obama continued to call out the media, the failing New York Times, the fake Wall Street Journal, and really laid into the Obama administration holdovers as the problem with our national intelligence. Let's rejoin it here.
I'll tell you something. I'll be honest, because I sort of enjoy this back and forth, and I guess I have all my life, but I've never seen more dishonest media than, frankly, the political media. I thought the financial media was much better, much more honest. But I will say that I never get phone calls from the media. How do they write a story like that in the Wall Street Journal without asking me? Or how do they write a story in the New York Times, put it on front page? That was like the story they wrote about the women and me. Front page, big, massive story. And it was nasty. And then they called, they said, we never said that. We like Mr. Trump. They called up my office. We like Mr. Trump. We never said that. And it was they totally misrepresented those very wonderful women, I have to tell you. Totally misrepresented. I said, give us a retraction. They never gave us a retraction. And frankly, I then went on to other things. Okay. Go ahead.
You said, I am just wondering. You said today that you had the biggest electoral margin since Ronald Reagan with 304, 306 electoral votes. And now President Obama got 365.
Republican. Yeah.
Obama 330. The majority of Jimmy Bush 426 when he won as president. So why should Americans?
I was given that information. I don't know. I was just given. We had a very, very big margin.
Why should Americans trust you when you accuse the information they receive being made when you're providing information?
Well, I don't know. I was given that information. I've seen that information around, but it was a very substantial victory. Do you agree with that? Okay, thank you. That's a good answer. Yes.
Can you tell us, in determining that Lieutenant General Flynn there was no wrongdoing in your mind, what evidence was weighed? Did you ask for transcripts?
All right, folks, I'm sorry we have to bump out here again, but the president began all this by saying he's decided he's just going to go straight to the American people because the media is being so dishonest and misrepresenting. This is exactly what I was hoping he would do, by the way, but we'll be back and join it in just a second. Now, don't worry, I'm going to fill you in on whatever you missed. We now rejoin the press conference. Jonathan Karl of ABC News is now yapping at the heels.
About him and reported him. I mean, the leaks are real. You know what they said. You saw it. And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake. So one thing that I felt it was very important to do, and I hope we can correct it, because there's nobody I have more respect for, well, maybe a little bit, but than reporters, than good reporters. It's very important to me, and especially in this position. It's very important. I don't mind bad stories. I can handle a bad story better than anybody, as long as it's true. And, over a course of time, I'll make mistakes, and you'll write badly, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay when it is fake. I mean, I watch CNN. It's so much anger and hatred, and just the hatred. I don't watch it anymore because it's very good. He's saying no. It's okay, Jim. It's okay, Jim. You'll have your chance. But I watch others, too. You're not the only one, so don't feel badly. But I think it should be straight. I think it would be, frankly, more interesting. I know how good everybody's ratings are right now, but I think that'd actually be better. People, I mean, you have a lower approval rate than Congress. I think that's right. I don't know, Peter, is that one right? Because, I think they have I heard lower than Congress. But honestly, the public would appreciate it. I'd appreciate it. Again, I don't mind bad stories when it's true. But we have an administration where the Democrats are making it very difficult. I think we're setting a record or close to a record in the time of approval of a cabinet. I mean, the numbers are crazy. When I'm looking, some of them had approved immediately. I'm going forever. And I still have a lot of people that we're waiting for. And that's all they're doing is delaying. And you look at Schumer and the mess that he's got over there, and they have nothing going. The only thing they can do is delay. And, I think they'd be better served by approving and making sure that they're happy and everybody's good. And sometimes, I mean, I know President Obama lost 3 or 4, and you lose them on the way, and that's okay. That's fine. But I think they would be much better served, John, if they just went through the process quickly. This is pure delay tactics. And they say it, and everybody understands it. Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Well, I had nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with Russia. I told you. I have no deals there. I have no anything. Now, when WikiLeaks, which I had nothing to do with, comes out and happens to give, they're not giving.
They are not asking him a single thing about anything he spoke of in the first half hour.
Hillary cheating on the debates, which, by the way, nobody mentions. Nobody mentions that Hillary received the questions to the debates. Can you imagine, seriously, can you imagine if I received the questions? It would be the electric chair. Okay? He should be put in the electric. You would even call for the reinstitution of the death penalty, okay? Maybe not you, John. Yes, we'll do you next, Jim. I'll do you next. Yes.
Important point, I think.
Sure.
Did you direct Mike Flynn to discuss sanctions with the Russian ambassador?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Inauguration.
No, I didn't.
And
Mike,
fired?
excuse me. No, I fired him because of what he said to Mike Pence. Very simple. Mike was doing his job. He was calling countries and his counterparts. So it certainly would have been okay with me if he did it. I would have directed him to do it if I thought he wasn't doing it. I didn't direct him, but I would have directed him because that's his job. And it came out that way. And in all fairness, I watched Dr. Charles Krauthammer the other night say he was doing his job. And I agreed with him. And since then, I've watched many other people say that. No, I didn't direct him, but I would have directed him if he didn't do it. Okay? Jim?
Thank you very much. And just for the record, we don't hate you. I don't hate you.
Okay.
So just want to pass that along. But
ask Jeff Zucker how he got his job, okay?
If I may follow up on some of the questions that have taken place so far here, sir.
Well, not too many. We do have other people. You do have other people, and your ratings aren't as good as some of the other people that are waiting.
Pretty good right now, actually.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
If I may ask, sir, you said earlier that WikiLeaks was revealing information about the Hillary Clinton campaign during the election cycle. You welcomed that at one.
I was okay with it.
You said you loved WikiLeaks. At another campaign press conference, you called on the Russians to find the missing 30,000 emails. I'm wondering, sir, if you...
Well, she was actually missing 33, and then that got extended with a whole
Maybe
pile
my
after
numbers are off a
that.
little bit, too.
No, but I did say 30, but it was actually higher than that.
If I may ask you, sir, it sounds as though you do not have much credibility here when it comes to leaking, if that is something that you encouraged in the campaign.
Fair question. Ready?
If I may ask you that.
No, but let me do one at a time. Do you mind?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, in one case, you're talking about highly classified information. In the other case, you're talking about John Podesta saying bad things about the boss. I will say this. If John Podesta said that about me and he was working for me, I would have fired him so fast your head would have spun. He said terrible things about her. But it wasn't classified information. But in one case, you're talking about classified. Regardless, if you look at the RNC, we had a very strong, at my suggestion, and I give Reince great credit for this, at my suggestion, because I know something about this world, I said I want a very strong defensive mechanism. I don't want to be hacked. And we did that. And you have seen that they tried to hack us and they failed. The DNC did not do that. And if they did it, they could not have been hacked. But they were hacked and terrible things came in. And, you know, the only thing that I do think is unfair is some of the things when I heard some of those things, I picked up the papers the next morning and said, oh, this is going to be front page. It wasn't even in the papers. Again, if I had that happen to me, it would be the biggest story in the history of publishing or the head of newspapers.
I've never seen this before. This is great. I have never seen this before.
Think of it. They gave her the questions to a debate, and she should have reported herself. Why didn't Hillary Clinton announce that, I'm sorry, but I have been given the questions to a debate or a town hall, and I feel that it's inappropriate, and I want to turn in CNN for not doing a good job.
If I may follow up on that, just something that Jonathan Karl was asking you about. You said that the leaks are real, but the news is fake. I guess I don't understand. It seems that there's a disconnect there. If the information coming from those leaks is real, then how can the stories be fake?
No, the reporting is fake.
And if I may ask, I just want to ask
Jim, you know what it is? Here's the thing. The public isn't, they read newspapers, they see television, they watch. They don't know if it's true or false because they're not involved. I'm involved. I've been involved with this stuff all my life. But I'm involved. So I know when you're telling the truth or when you're not. I just see many, many untruthful things. And I'll tell you what else I see. I see tone. You know the word tone. The tone is such hatred.
Yes.
I'm really not a bad person, by the way. No, but the tone is such... I do get good ratings, you have to admit that. The tone is such hatred. I watched this morning a couple of the network, and I have to say, Fox and Friends in the morning, they're very honorable people. They're very, not because they're good, because they hit me also when I do something wrong, but they have the most honest morning show. That's all I can say. It's the most honest. But the tone, Jim, if you look, the hatred, sometimes somebody gets, well, you look at your show that goes on at 10 o'clock in the evening. You just take a look at that show. That is a constant hit. The panel is almost always exclusive anti-Trump. The good news is he doesn't have good ratings. But the panel is almost exclusive anti-Trump. And the hatred and venom coming from his mouth. The hatred coming from other people on your network. Now, I will say this. I watch it. I see it. I'm amazed by it. And I just think you'd be a lot better off. I honestly do. The public gets it, Look, when I go to rallies, they turn around, they start screaming at CNN. They want to throw their placards at CNN. I think you would do much better by being
honest,
different. But you just take a look. Take a look at some of your shows in the morning and the evening. If a guest comes out and says something positive about me, it's brutal. Now, they'll take this news conference. I'm actually having a very good time, okay? But they'll take this news conference. Don't forget, that's the way I won. Remember, I used to give you a news conference every time I made a speech, which was like every day. Okay? No, that's how I won. I won with news conference and probably speeches. I certainly didn't win by people listening to you people, that's for sure. But I'm having a good time. Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But...
They've unleashed a tiger here, is what they've done.
I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be Donald Trump rants and... I'm not ranting on that. Go ahead.
I may just one more follow-up.
Should I let him have a little bit more? What do you think, Peter? Peter, should I let him have a little bit more? Sit down. Sit down. We'll get it.
Just because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine...
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you...
Go ahead.
Real news, Mr. President. Real news.
And you're not related to our new...
I am not related, sir, no. I do like the sound of Secretary Acosta, I must say.
I looked at that name. I said, wait a minute. Is there any relation there? Alex Acosta.
I'm sure you checked that out, sir.
No, I checked it. They said, no, sir. I said, do me a favor. Go back and check the family tree. Okay.
But aren't you concerned, sir, that you are undermining the people's faith in the First Amendment, freedom of the press in this country, when you call stories you don't like fake news? Why not just say it's a story I don't like?
I do that.
Call it fake news.
No,
you're undermining confidence in our news media.
Here's the thing.
Isn't that important?
I understand what
you're doing that
right
yourself, Acosta. He's not.
See, I know when I should get good and when I should get bad. And sometimes I'll say, wow, that's going to be a great story. And I'll get killed. I know what's good and bad. I'd be a pretty good reporter, not as good as you. But I know what's good. I know what's bad. And when they change it and make it really bad, something that should be positive, sometimes something that should be very positive, they'll make okay. They'll even make it negative. So I understand it. So because I'm there, I know what was said, I know who's saying it, I'm there. So it's very important to me. Look, I want to see an honest press. When I started off today by saying that it's so important to the public to get an honest press. The public doesn't believe you people anymore. Now, maybe I had something to do with that. I don't know. But they don't believe you. If you were straight and really told it like it is, as Howard Cosell used to say, right? Of course, he had some questions also. But if you were straight, I would be your biggest booster. I would be your biggest fan in the world, including bad stories about me. But if you go, as an example, you're CNN, I mean, it's story after story after story is bad. I won. And the other thing, chaos. There's zero chaos. We are running. This is a fine-tuned machine. And Reince happens to be doing a good job. But half of his job is putting out lies by the press. I said to him yesterday, this whole Russia scam that you guys are building so that you don't talk about the real subject, which is illegal leaks. But I watched him yesterday working so hard to try and get that story proper. And I'm saying, here's my chief of staff, a really good guy, did a phenomenal job at RNC. I mean, he won the election, right? Won the presidency. We got some senators. We got some all over the country. You take a look. He's done a great job. And I said to myself, and I said to somebody that was in there, I said, you take a look at Reince. He's working so hard just putting out fires that are fake fires. I mean, they're fake. They're not true.
Fake fires.
And isn't that a shame?
Folks, we have reached a point where another time out here that we have to take. And fear not whatever you've missed. And you've caught the main thrust of all this. But we'll be reviewing this and taking your phone calls about it when it's over. We'll be right back. While we were gone, Donald Trump just excoriated Hillary Clinton for giving away 20% of the uranium supply and telling the press they never reported. He excoriated her for that stupid plastic red button to reset relations with Russia. We'll now rejoin the presser as he's continuing to take these people to school.
Care sooner. So we'll be submitting health care sometime in early March, mid-March, and after that we're going to come up, and we're doing very well on tax reform. Yes.
Mr. President, you mentioned Russia. Let's talk about some serious issues that have come up in the last week that you have had to deal with as President of the United States.
Okay.
You mentioned the spy vessel off the coast of the United States.
Not good.
There was a ballistic missile test that many interpret as a violation of an agreement between the two countries, and a Russian plane buzzed a U.S. destroyer.
Not good.
I listened to you during the campaign.
Excuse me. When did it happen? It happened when, if you were Putin right now, you would say, hey, we're back to the old games with the United States. There's no way Trump can ever do a deal with us because you have to understand, if I was just brutal on Russia right now, just brutal, you would say, oh, isn't that wonderful? But I know you well enough. Then you would say, he was too tough. He shouldn't have done that. Look,
I'm just
all
trying
of
to
the
find out
things.
your
Wait a minute.
orientation to those.
Excuse me, just one second. All of those things that you mentioned are very recent. Because probably Putin assumes that he's not going to be able to make a deal with me because it's politically not popular for me to make a deal. So Hillary Clinton tries a reset. It failed. They all tried. But I'm different than those people. Go ahead.
How are you interpreting those moves, and what do you intend to do about them?
Just
have you
the way
given
I said
Rex
it.
Tillerson any advice or counsel on how to deal?
I have, and I'm so beautifully represented. I'm so honored that the Senate approved him. He's going to be fantastic. Yes, I think that
Is Putin testing you, do you believe, sir?
No, I don't think so. I think Putin probably assumes that he can't make a deal with me anymore because politically it would be unpopular for a politician to make a deal. I can't believe I'm saying I'm a politician, but I guess that's what I am now. Because, look, it would be much easier for me to be tough on Russia, but then we're not going to make a deal. Now, I don't know that we're going to make a deal. I don't know. We might not. But it would be much easier for me to be so tough. The tougher I am on Russia, the better. But you know what? I want to do the right thing for the American people. And to be honest, secondarily, I want to do the right thing for the world. If Russia and the United States actually got together and got along, and don't forget, we're a very powerful nuclear country, and so are they. There's no upside. We're a very powerful nuclear country, and so are they. I've been briefed, and I can tell you one thing about a briefing that we're allowed to say because anybody that ever read the most basic book can say it. Nuclear holocaust would be like no other. They're a very powerful nuclear country, and so are we. If we have a good relationship with Russia, believe me, that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
So when you say they're not good, do you mean that
Who
they
did
are
I say is not good?
No, when I read off the three things that have recently happened,
No,
each
it's
one of them
not
you said
good,
they're
but
not
they happen.
good. But do they damage the relationship?
They all
undermine
happened recently. No, I'm
this
trying to
country's
see what
ability
happened.
to work with Russia?
They all happened recently, and I understand what they're doing because they're doing the same thing. Now, again, maybe I'm not going to be able to do a deal with Russia, but at least I will have tried. And if I don't, does anybody really think that Hillary Clinton would be tougher on Russia than Donald Trump? Does anybody in this room really believe that? Okay? But I tell you one thing. She tried to make a deal. She had the reset. She gave all that valuable uranium away. She did other things. You know, they say I'm close to Russia. Hillary Clinton gave away 20% of the uranium in the United States. She's close to Russia. You know what I gave to Russia? You know what I gave?
I'll tell you, they can't wait to characterize this for you, folks. They have to take another obscene profit break here, but we'll be back. Don't go anywhere here. Just what the doctor ordered. This is Donald Trump going over the head of the media right to the American people, advancing his domestic agenda and being totally transparent. These people, I don't think they don't know. They don't know how to get on the same stage that he's on. American people are going to eat this up when they see it. Back in a second. That's right. Welcome back to the EIB Network. Rush Limbaugh here, and we continue now with the Trump press conference. Over an hour, and Trump's still standing, still triumphing over these little spitballs that are being thrown his way. Let's go back. It's got to be winding down sometime soon.
They're doing this because they feel it, both of them. And Melania goes back and forth, and after Barron finishes school, because it's hard to take a child out of school with a few months left, she and Barron will be moving over to the White House. Okay, thank you. It's a very nice question. Go ahead. Yes. This is going to be a bad question, but that's okay.
No, it's not going to be a bad question.
Good, because I enjoy watching you on television. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. Mr. President, I need to find out from you. You said something as it relates to inner cities. That was one of your platforms during your campaign. Now
Fix the inner cities. Yeah.
Fixing the inner cities. What will be that fix and your urban agenda, as well as your HBCU executive order that's coming out this afternoon? Now, see, it wasn't bad, was it?
That was very professional and very good. Yeah, we'll be announcing the order in a little while, and I'd rather let the order speak for itself, but it'll be something I think that will be very good for everybody concerned. But we'll talk to you about that after we do the announcement.
It tells the reporters when they ask good questions and when they're bad.
I was very strong on the inner cities during the campaign. I think it's probably what got me a much higher percentage of the African-American vote than a lot of people thought I was going to get. We did, much higher than people thought I was going to get, and I was honored by that, including the Hispanic vote, which was also much higher. And, by the way, if I might add, including the women's vote, which was much higher than people thought I was going to get. So we are going to be working very hard on the inner cities, having to do with education, having to do with crime. We're going to try and fix as quickly as possible. It takes a long time. It's taken 100 years and more for some of these places to evolve, and they evolved, many of them, very badly. But we're going to be working very hard on health and health care, very, very hard on education, and also we're going to be working in a stringent way and a very good way on crime. You go to some of these inner city places, and it's so sad when you look at the crime. You have people, and I've seen this, and I've sort of witnessed it. In fact, in 2 cases, I have actually witnessed it. They lock themselves into apartments, petrified to even leave in the middle of the day. They're living in hell. We can't let that happen. So we're going to be very, very strong. It's a great question, and it's a very difficult situation because it's been many, many years. It's been festering for many, many years. But we have places in this country that we have to fix. We have to help African American people that, for the most part, are stuck there. Hispanic American people. We have Hispanic American people that are in the inner cities, and they're living in hell.
That's right.
You look at the numbers in Chicago. There are 2 Chicagos, as you know. There's one Chicago that's incredible, luxurious, and all, and safe. There's another Chicago that's worse than almost any of the places in the Middle East that we talk about and that you talk about every night on the newscasts. So we're going to do a lot of work on the inner cities. I have great people lined up to help with the inner cities.
Well, when you say the inner cities, are you going to include the CBC, Mr. President, in your conversations with your urban agenda?
And
your
the Congressional Black Caucasian.
Am I going to include?
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional?
Well,
Hispanic
I would.
Caucus,
I tell you what. Do you want to set up the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of yours?
I'm just a reporter.
No, set up the meeting.
I know some of them, but I'm sure.
Let's go set up a meeting. I would love to meet with the Black Caucus. I think it's great. The Congressional Black Caucus. I think it's great. I actually thought I had a meeting with Congressman Cummings, and he was all excited. And then he said, "Oh, I can't move. It might be bad for me politically. I can't have that meeting." I was all set to have the meeting. You know, we called him, and he was all set. I spoke to him on the phone. Very nice guy.
I hear he wanted that meeting with you as well.
He wanted it, but we called. They can't make a meeting with him. Every day I walk in, I said, I would like to meet with him because I do want to solve the problem. But he probably was told by Schumer or somebody like that, some other lightweight. He was probably told.
That's some New York stuff going on there.
Don't meet with Trump. It's bad politics, and that's part of the problem in this country. Okay, one more. Go ahead.
Lightweight Schumer.
No, one question. 2 we can't handle. This room can't handle 2. Go ahead. Give me the better of your 2.
I'll follow up on my colleague's question about anti-Semitism. It's not about your personality or your beliefs. We're talking about a rising anti-Semitism around the country, some of it by supporters in your name. What can you do?
And some of it, and can I be honest with you? And this has to do with racism and horrible things that are put up. Some of it written by our opponents. You do know that. Do you understand that? You don't think anybody would do a thing like that. Some of the signs you'll see are not put up by the people that love or like Donald Trump. They're put up by the other side. And you think it's like playing it straight? No. But you have some of those signs, and some of that anger is caused by the other side. They'll do signs and they'll do drawings that are inappropriate. It won't be my people. It will be the people on the other side.
That's right.
To anger people like you. Okay.
Anger people like you.
Go ahead.
What are you going to do about it?
Who is that? Where is that?
What are you going to do about it?
Folks, he's enjoying this like I've never seen a president enjoy a press conference. He's toying with these people.
We had a totally divided country for 8 years, and long before that, in all fairness to President Obama, long before President Obama, we have had a very divided. I didn't come along and divide this country. This country was seriously divided before I got here. We're going to work on it very hard. One of the questions that was asked, I thought was a very good question, was about the inner cities. I mean, that's part of it. But we're going to work on education. We're going to work on we're going to try and stop the crime. We have great law enforcement officials. We're going to try and stop crime. We're not going to try and stop. We're going to stop crime. But it's very important to me. But this isn't Donald Trump that divided a nation. We went 8 years with President Obama, and we went many years before President Obama. We lived in a divided nation. And I am going to try. I will do everything within my power to fix that. I want to thank everybody very much. It's a great honor to be with you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
That's what he does. That's okay.
We'll do it later.
That's President Trump wrapping up the presser.
Wow.
That's what he does at the end of every one of his rallies. He thanks everybody. He lets them know that he respects them and appreciates them being there. And that's what I've always said is the humility of Donald Trump that nobody sees and nobody recognizes because they're not looking for it because they have a bias and a prejudice against the guy. Okay. Welcome, folks, to the EIB network. Our telephone number is 800-282-2882. We'll be getting to phone calls in a minute. I just want to characterize this press conference. It started off with the acknowledgement of the new labor secretary, whose name is Acosta. And then the president literally spelled out what he was doing. Let's grab audio soundbite number 24. Here is his opening and explaining what he's doing, what the purpose of the press conference was.
I'm making this presentation directly to the American people with the media present, which is an honor to have you this morning because many of our nation's reporters and folks will not tell you the truth and will not treat the wonderful people of our country with the respect that they deserve. Unfortunately, much of the media in Washington, D.C., along with New York, Los Angeles in particular, speaks not for the people, but for the special interests and for those profiting off a very, very obviously broken system. The press has become so dishonest that if we don't talk about it, we are doing a tremendous disservice to the American people. Tremendous disservice. We have to talk about it to find out what's going on because the press honestly is out of control.
And he continued on that theme, and people that were watching this were no doubt cheering because it's absolutely true. And he gave an example, and it turned out to be the example that I opened the program with. I'm at home last night, and I get this news alert from the Wall Street Journal, and it says that intelligence officials have considered Donald Trump to be so out of touch and so dangerous, they're going to stop sharing intelligence with him. And I looked, I said, well, this is a coup. This is a silent coup if this is true. And I believe it's the Wall Street Journal, for crying out loud. And I'm a student of the drive-bys. And I thought, man, this is, I started, a couple of people that I respect. I fired off notes. Did you see this? What do you think about this? Had some discussions. And I get in here this morning and I find out that the whole thing was bogus. That there are intelligence people throughout the history of our country who do not share intel with the president because it's bad, because it's not worth anything. The Wall Street Journal took something that happens all the time and shaped it and made it look like it's brand new, unprecedented, because Trump is so dangerous and unhinged and bad that they can't afford to share the intel with him. And the underlying theme was, we can't let Trump see the intel because this guy is working with Russia. And he and Russia work together to undermine our election. They continue to have that narrative as what's driving all of their approach to Trump. Everything they're doing is rooted in that. Trump's illegitimacy is rooted in a fake narrative that does not exist and did not happen. That the Russians affected the outcome of the election with the assistance of Donald Trump. And that's the rubric under which that news alert happened last night. So Trump addresses it today and mentions how it's just totally wrong and fake news and a disservice to the American people who read it. And he gave a couple of other examples, citing the New York Times. He did all of this, however, with good cheer. He wasn't nearly as animated and quasi-angry as I am about it. He was, in fact, soft-spoken and measured. He came across as nonpartisan as you can in a political sense. But it was classic, and he just called them out. He called CNN out throughout this press conference as hate-filled and strange to the truth, unable to report the truth, focused on not just disagreeing with him, but hating him, and how this is a disservice to the American people. One of the reporters from CNN, a guy named Jim Acosta, this was classic, stood up. The whole thing was classic because Trump's on one stage and they're on another. And they're in that room. Folks, they're in that room to destroy him today. He announced a press conference. They are in that room to destroy him, whether they want to admit it or not. And there were 3 or 4 questions today that I heard that left no doubt that's what the purpose was. Despite everything he had said today, they asked these insolent questions. Did you ever talk to Russia during the campaign. Trump, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't know anybody in Russia. I didn't talk to anybody in Russia. We didn't talk about it. He's just gone on and on. But they kept asking the question because that's all they've got. And they've got nothing there. The stories I have in the stack today clearly state that there is no evidence. These intel people trying to undermine Trump have to admit that there is no evidence that A, the Russians had anything to do with the outcome of our election, or B, Trump was working with them on it to undermine Hillary Clinton. And yet that continues to be the narrative that is fueling the press in their pursuit of Donald Trump. So the CNN guy stands up and effectively says, I'm paraphrasing Jim Acosta, don't you think that these routine attacks of yours on the press and on the media are undermining the First Amendment by calling what we're doing fake news? Aren't you doing a terrible disservice to the Constitution and to the American people by criticizing the media? And there it was. Sure as I'm sitting here watching, there it was. They can sit there all day and not just criticize, they can try to destroy people. They can, using whatever they think they have been granted by the First Amendment power, to go out and literally destroy people. Let Trump criticize the way they do their jobs, and all of a sudden it's a constitutional crisis. Well, how about Obama trashing me all the time? How about Obama trashing Fox News all the time? Was that not a threat to the First Amendment? No, they applauded that. They still do applaud that. They join in the attacks on Fox News, and more often than not, they join in attacks on me, too. But they want you to believe that they are this watchdog and that they are holding truth to power, that they're holding powerful people accountable. They're not doing anything of the sort. The press has gotten to the point where they need a watchdog, and it turns out that Trump is the watchdog. Trump is the guy holding them accountable. Trump is the guy calling them out. I've never seen anything like this today. We have wanted Republican presidents all of my life to deal with these people this way, and the only thing we ever got was Spiro Agnew. We've not seen anything like this, and Trump did it with an air of confidence and self-assuredness. He was not nervous at all. He was having fun with them. He was toying with them. It's like if you got a cat, do you know that you get these little laser pointers and you have a little kitten or a cat and the cat goes nuts chasing the light, it'll run into a wall. That's what I was watching here today. It was fantastic. And the American people are going to eat this up. Now, I said yesterday on this program that what I thought Trump could do to recapture and regain control of the narrative here, if you will, but of the agenda, is simply focus on the domestic agenda. Just get in gear and very publicly start talking about repealing Obamacare, tax reform, building the wall, immigration reform, all of it. Just go full speed at it. And in the process, will keep people who voted for him on his side, and they won't care about whatever these efforts are that the press is engaging in with the intel community. And make no mistake, and he called this out. He accused Obama of running this shadow government. He accused Hillary Clinton and George Soros of being the people paying for people to show up and protest things. He held nothing back. He ridiculed Hillary Clinton for being in part of a deal that gave up 20% of our uranium supply and for having that cheap little red reset button when she became Secretary of State. And each time he mentions Obama, he didn't say shadow government, but he said our opponents are doing what they can. He called all of this fake news. He was on spot with all of this. I think this. You know, it's hard to say. You get caught up in the moment. But this was one of the most effective press conferences I've ever seen. The press is going to hate him even more after this. Don't misunderstand. When I say effective, I'm talking about rallying people who voted for him to stay with him. He made a point of what chaos. You people tell us you're reporting for chaos here. We're not chaos. We're a well-oiled machine. We got one of the smoothest running machines in the history of machines. We got one of the best administrations in the history of administrations. And he rattled off the achievements they've had here that the media is not reporting because they're so focused on whether or not Trump worked with Russia to screw Hillary out of the presidency. And reassuring his people he's on top of it, nothing's changed, and everything that he campaigned on, he is doing. And all he's doing is fulfilling campaign promises. And of course the Democrats don't like it, and of course the media doesn't like it, but it isn't going to stop him. And I have to stop myself here. We'll be back and resume after this.